record to this computer. Ok, bien, bien, gracias. Excelente. Y buenos días, buenos días. Feliz lunes. Happy Monday. Bueno, vamos a practicar. We're going to practice. I've got a little roadmap for today, but of course, any detours we take are perfectly okay because I know many, many times we take detours which are all blessed, sanctioned, okay, because people have questions. So never, never hesitate to change course a little if you've got questions about how things are going. My general idea today is we're going to kind of do a mop up, an extra practice with our que en cuál. We're going to take a look at those. I'm going to pull up our file on that today, and we're going to do the little exercises that were at the end and see what your thoughts are on this and how difficult and or easy it might have been because, you know, it's kind of a complicated topic, but I wanted to sort of tie together this interrogative words thing for our winter sessions. So we're going to do que en cuál. We'll take any questions you might have had on our listening video. I think you probably won't have a lot, but then I get surprised sometimes, so that's okay. And then I thought we would do some review, un repaso, a review on some issues with stem changing verbs. And Andrew, that's going to be brand new for you in particular. So that for you, Andrew, might feel like, uh-oh, she threw me in the deep end of the pool with, with no life preserver. Oh, good God. But it isn't the hardest concept. It isn't. And actually, I think it's easier than que en cuál. How's that? So, but we're going to do a little review on that and maybe do some listening comprehension. Well, we'll see how much we get done, but I know for sure we can finish our que en cuál. Okay? ¿Sí? ¿Vale? Good enough? Bien.
Sí.
Vale. Bueno. Entonces, adelante, adelante. I'm going to get my file enlarged to the right size so we can play around with that a little bit, get some feedback, see. Oops, here we go. And see what you think about this. This was our que en cuál. And you know, as we had said before, we'll take one step back so that we kind of are oriented on a Friday or on a Monday morning. Friday, gee, no, on a Monday morning. What we're actually discussing and what mindset we need to be in. We were talking at the start of winter session about question words and how, you know, really we use questions all the time. If you're as a tourist visiting any country, you will constantly have questions you want to ask. So it's good to know how to formulate them. And knowing those interrogative words is, of course, the first step. And okay, so the easy interrogative or question words are the cuándo, when, the dónde, where, right? Or yeah, even quién, who, yeah. But the two that are tricky, that are nasty, that are difficult because they don't translate well due to context are que and cuál. Que being what and cuál being which. But in point of fact, even though cuál means which, quite often in translation, questions that use cuál winds up getting the what translation because of the way these are used. So these are the two that are tricky and difficult, and we want to finish up with this. So our next little step with the step back is that que, the true what interrogative, que is used when we need to explain what something is, explain what an activity is, give a definition, give an explanation. That's the reason for using que to mean what. Also, we often pair it with a noun. And that is the one that is kind of not really a bone of contention, but sometimes that que y sustantivo, this part right here, like asking, ¿qué día es? ¿Qué día? ¿Qué with a noun. The noun is día. ¿Qué día es? What day is it? You might think, well, that's picking something out of a group, but because I'm pairing que with a noun, that is considered the proper grammatical structure to use, pairing que with a noun. That particular little rule sometimes gets violated in Latin American Spanish. Some people, if they mean which day is it, might put in cuál día es. It is technically, according to the rules, not favored, but a lot of people, in point of fact, do it. So just know that que with a noun gets violated in Latin America a lot, and it just does. Okay. When do you see?
Marilyn, could I just jump in for a second? I'm not
Sí,
trying
sí.
to derail you at all,
No, no,
but
está bien.
like on this slide, and I'll just admit for all my friends here, I'm still struggling with this a little bit. So
Me too.
what
A
in
lot
the
of people do.
okay, well, I have good company, I
To
guess, but
struggle on this is a normal thing. Spanish speakers uh, uh, under people who teach Spanish who are native Spanish speakers totally understand that English speakers don't get this well, and
so on this,
they know to
sorry,
anticipate us making mistakes on it.
on this slide, in the concept of using que to get a definition of something.
Sí,
Like I remember in the video, it was like, ¿qué es esto?
sí,
So I'm looking for on this slide in the left, on the left side of it, where I would also like to see that there is a, there are, for that definition um, use, you really need a K, S, and then the blank.
oh, sí, yeah, I probably, yes, sí,
Because
I should have done that, yes,
then it allows me to be confused between that KS blank
sí.
and qual S blank.
Gracias. Thank you. I'm going to have to figure out later on how I can change it. Thank you for pointing that out. See, I should really have the blank after the S. See, and because I'm on share screen, it will not allow me to alter that. See,
But the way it's written now is I think it's fine if you put a noun in there. I mean that's a
yeah,
good
it
use, you
is.
know.
Yeah. Um,
K well like K hora S.
Sí. Yeah, ¿qué día es? What day is it? See? But, pero técnicamente, sí. ¿Qué es esto? Yeah. What is this for a definition? ¿Qué es esto? Ah, um, uh, ¿qué son estos? Because there are two pieces that go on different parts of your head.
Right.
¿Qué son estos? Son audífonos, son auriculares, and I just tell you, oh, this is what we call them. I'm giving you a definition, right? Um, so you're right. Actually, it makes more sense for me to have the blank after the S. ¿Qué es esto? What is this? ¿Qué es esto is a normal question. If you don't know the word in Spanish, you want to buy an item, but you don't know what to call it, uh, um, or you just think it looks unusual or curious and you don't know what it is and you want to ask, ¿qué es esto? You walk into, that explanation of you walk into the house and there's like, egg yolk all over the stove and a big mess, ingredients. ¿Qué es esto? What is this? It's kind of like, what is the meaning of this? What's going on here? ¿Qué es esto? What's this? So anytime we need a definition or an explanation, you need to have a vocabulary word given because you don't know what to call it. Uh, you know, things like that. Those are definitions and explanations, and they use que. ¿Cuál? ¿Cuál is a really, really specific question word? And cuál, and notice, and I think the point here with the little bubbles is that both que and cuál can be used with the verb ser. So um, that isn't like a clue to help us because they can use the same verb. ¿Cuál es used to pick something out of a group, to pick something out of a bigger category, usually a group of things that are kind of similar. Okay. So that seems pretty clear, except, when you get to this thing of the elemental question of asking, ¿Cuál es su nombre? Well, isn't that a definition? What's your name? ¿Cuál es su, ¿Cuál es su nombre? Shouldn't it be ¿Qué es su nombre? Because ¿Cuál es su nombre is really the way you need to ask it. ¿Cuál es su nombre? We don't really think of nombre, name, as a category that you pick from. All right. Or,
Hmm.
but it is. This is the way they think of it. So when people say, well, isn't that a definition? What's your name? Isn't that an explanation? Yeah, but the way they view it is, hey, there are 600 things you might have for a first name. Which one out of that group is yours? That's the way they view it. That's their mental set. And it's just the way that is, yeah. O, por ejemplo, sí, ¿cuál es tu cumpleaños? Sí, ¿qué día es tu cumpleaños? Is correct because it's qué día, but ¿cuál es tu cumpleaños? Which one out of all the dates out of the 365 days of the year? That's the way they view, yeah. ¿Cuál es tu aniversario? What's your anniversary? Because there are 365 days it can be. That's the way it's viewed, as a choice out of a group. So if you kind of try to be a pure, from the philosophy view of applying logic in the philosophical definition of logic, it's going to fail. Okay? It's going to fail. If you're a scientific person that you think in ones and twos of logic, I'm not going to have, because it's a language rule, not a philosophy or a logic rule. That's the way it is. So, okay. Vale. Sí. Uh,
I apologize again.
no,
Could you
no.
back up that slide?
Sí, sí.
I wanted to throw, I'm not even sure which one. I have two written down here that drove me nuts in one of those, like, practice things.
Yeah.
And in English, the concept is, I want to know what is your favorite color, or which color is your favorite one, right? And even there was another one that was very similar. It was blank color te gusta más. Which of these two colors that they listed do you like more?
Yeah.
And boy, those two will drive me crazy, I think, for the rest of my
Well,
life.
and yes, you are
Because
correct.
there's clearly, the concept, there is a group of colors that exists. It's not totally undefined. Or even in the other one, here's two colors and I want to know which of these two. And anyway, I will now shut up and listen.
No, no. That's okay.
I had
That's
the
okay.
same I had the same confusion, Mark, and because if someone would ask me that, I would say because, and then I would explain or define why that's my favorite color.
Yeah. Um,
Um,
okay, so now let me predicate this. Because of this rule here, which is a long-standing rule of pairing, and it's a structure thing. Yeah, it's a structure thing, a pairing with a noun. Um, because of that, sometimes there is more than one way to phrase the question, and one question may use cuál, and one question may use qué. But the structure may determine which word you choose, qué or cuál. Asking the same question about color. So, and then to make it more confusing, this thing of, you can only pair K with a noun, which used to be like gospel truth. Like this is, you're going to get, the nun's going to wrap my knuckles in high school if I get it wrong and say, I told you it wasn't that. Uh, but somebody who was a native speaker might say, but at home, my parents say that. And you know what? That might be true. So it becomes more complicated, but do know that if you're in Latin America, that que with a noun is very flexible, very flexible for Latin Americans. Not so much for Spaniards because they started the rule. And by God, if they started it, it's the right one. And yes, and that is the feeling. And even in the late 70s when I was at university, that rule still held. And people would still say, but if you hear people say it the other way, technically, they are speaking poor, you know, uh, speaking with poor grammar sense. Okay. So the fact, one thing about the Spanish language is that some of these picky little rules actually are rules, and there is a body of people who determine these rules, and they do sometimes change them, and they change them because sometimes the majority of other country participants come into the academic setting and say, but you know what, this is not the way people are talking now, you know? And because if enough countries say, "Hey, we don't, our body of our native speakers don't feel this rule is pertinent anymore," it sometimes changes, but it takes many years for the official body to bless it. But who cares when you're in a marketplace and you want to ask what something is on a stand because you might want to buy it. Yeah. So we're going to try to look at the practical side, and we're going to get to, but there is one other little rule that will help you, which I do want to just emphasize a little bit. So, um,
So can we just, from if for
you,
nothing else, for my sake, could we close the loop on this one? It's blank color te gusta más, rojo o verde. And if I'm reading that first slide right, because it's blank and then a noun, the grammar police would say, that's que color te gusta más, rojo o verde, even though you're being asked to choose between red or green.
yeah. I'm
But
trying to
but
see. Did
I
I
could,
have it
but
up
I'm
on my?
thinking,
Did I have it up on my?
No, nope.
Oh, here. This is the one you're asking about, right? See?
well, that's one of them, yes.
Okay. So here's what I wanted to show. There might be different ways to ask the exact same question. One way uses cuál, one uses que, and it could be determined by the structure that the
Mm.
person uses. So this question, these two questions really kind of ask the exact same thing. Yeah. Uh, ¿cuál es tu color favorito? That is kind of, I'm going to tell you, that is a standard. That is not like in question or flexible. People will not ask, ¿qué es tu color? People will not ask, ¿qué es tu color favorito? Right? ¿Qué es tu color favorito? To a native speaker indicates you don't know what the phrase tu color favorito means. Your
Mm.
vocabulary doesn't know the combination tu color favorito. So here's the question. ¿Qué? Not what you see on the screen, but ¿qué es tu color favorito? Ah, your favorite color. There's the answer. If you ask it that way, ¿qué es tu color favorito? Somebody thinks you don't understand the phrase tu color favorito. See? Because they think you're asking for a definition. The way you're always going to hear that question, always, 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 is ¿cuál es tu color favorito? Because colors are seen as a finite group and you're picking something out of that group.
But it works only because you've done cuál and then ser, but as opposed to
¿Cuál es? And you're picking out of a
yeah.
homogeneous group. These are all things that are colors. They're not shapes. Yeah. Uh, um, they are colors. And so you're picking something out of a group. But if I rephrase it and combine it with ¿qué color prefieres? ¿Qué with the noun color? That's okay too, even though it's asking the same information. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, I guess you could say in the end, will somebody understand you if you're speaking with them and you make this mistake? Yeah, they'll probably understand you. But if you ask, okay, so, would somebody understand you in this structure if you substituted ¿cuál color prefieres? Yeah, they'll still understand you if you substitute cuál, especially if, you've got a visual in front of you and there are like two or three things laid out. Yeah, that might be okay to say cuál color prefieres, especially in Latin America. Okay. But technically, grammar Nazis, que with color. Okay. See? So would it be okay to swap in the word cuál to say cuál color prefieres, especially if you have a visual and there are like three or four things laid out? Yeah. It's going to think that's a-okay and they'll totally get what you mean. They'll totally understand it, right? But this question here, because of the way it's set up, it's always cuál. So nobody's ever going to ask that question as que, or cuál, as que es tu color favorito. It's always going to be asked as cuál es tu color favorito. I know. This kind of does make your brain do this, doesn't it? So don't feel like I'm abnormal and I have no hope. No, it is. But yeah.
Even if we are, even if I am.
Yeah. And this actually might really be okay if you're looking at the perspective of somebody visually lays out a bunch of things for you. And then it's clear because of the visual layout, let's say on a display table, that they're asking you to pick out of a group. So, okay, it happens. But this also, see, ¿qué música escuchas? What music do you listen to? ¿Qué combined with música, a noun, right? ¿Cuál es tu música favorita? See? ¿Cuál es? They're thinking of música as a category of our, is it norteño? Is it tango? Is it clásica, música clásica? Is it música rock? Is it jazz? Yeah, we're genres, right? What we would call genres of music, right? ¿Cuál es tu música favorita? So, do know nobody will ask this question as ¿qué es tu música favorita? What's your favorite music? English will often say, what's your favorite music? But nobody's going to ask that with ¿qué, Everybody's going to ask it. Everybody across the board. Spain, Latin America, wherever. Everybody's going to ask that question. It's cuál es? Because they think of music as the genres. Okay? It's a group you're picking out of, a style, if you would, that you're picking out of. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, even if it makes sense, is that easy? Well, maybe not necessarily. But what I'm trying to show you is what you will typically be most likely to hear. Okay? So, vale. Bueno. Okay. Here is another thing, however, and this one little thing may help you distinguish, because this, again, kind of like ¿cuál es tu música favorita? What's your favorite music? ¿Cuál es? Pick out of that group. This structure is kind of a sacred structure. Not even kind of, it is. It is a sacred structure. When I combine de, it automatically means I'm picking something from, because de means of or from. So, cuál de is an accepted structure. It's a set structure. Yeah. And it does correspond to the which of these. Yeah. So, por ejemplo, ¿cuál de estos nombres and I'm going to even phrase this as es el tuyo. I think I didn't put that in because it was interfering with my little insert. ¿Cuál de estos nombres es el tuyo? Which one of these is yours? So, like they're showing you a name, like you're at a doctor's office or something, and they want you to check in and the check-in process. See, ¿cuál de estos? Which one of these names? So, this de thing helps us to know cuál de is a combo. Yeah, when you're picking something out of a group. And that word de is helpful to us. Or when somebody lays out a bunch of different items that you might choose from in a store or off of a rack, right? ¿Cuál de las blusas quiere usted? ¿Cuál de las blusas? ¿Cuál de las blusas? Which one of the blouses? And this corresponds more to our English structure. Yeah, which one of these? And we combine which with that, so that's helpful. But the de thing is helpful. Or, ¿cuál de los aretes prefiere usted? So we can use, or ¿cuáles de los aretes prefiere usted? Which of these earrings? And because they're pairs, they're plural. So then it's the cuáles word, right? You'll probably hear cuál a little bit more than cuáles, the plural, probably. Just because likely it's more likely to be singular, but could be anything. Okay, so the de combines with cuál. De does not combine in this way with que. You might have de que, like de qué es la blusa? What's the blouse made out of? But then it will be de que, not que de. You won't hear que de. It'll be cuál de. Okay, vale. Let's go to our examples and see. Ooh, and I need to put this back down to normal, I think, to get my blurbs to, my original idea was to be able to move these around. Ooh, will it let me move them around? Yeah. Oh, I was trying to get these so I had a plural. Maybe I don't need a plural in this. Oh, I think I've got all A's. Okay, vale. See, so here's what we're going to do. If you want to ask a question, es un celular. Let's say, yeah, sí. ¿Cómo se forma la pregunta? How do we form this question? And if I have to lead off with either cuál or qué, what will be for es un celular?
I would think K,
Okay.
¿Qué? ¿Qué
because
is
you're
the
defining.
sí? Sí. ¿Qué es un celular? ¿Qué es un celular? Okay, so let me give you a hypothetical. Wow, this is something I actually did in classes. I would collect my students' cell phones because they during tests because they cheated with them. Not all. Pretty hefty percentage.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. Yes. There was massive rebellion when I announced this policy. Uh, anyway, after I had a box for every cell phone in the row you're sitting in. End of the test. Oh, you sit in row number 1. You finished your test. You come up to get your cell phone. And I could ask, I wouldn't ask, ¿qué es un celular? I don't want a definition, right? I'd ask,
¿Cuál?
which one are these out of the boxes? Yeah. ¿Cuál es tu
¿Cuál es
celular? See?
tu?
¿Cuál es tu celular? Which one is your cell phone? Then that's okay. But if you don't know the definition of the word celular, yeah, ¿qué es un celular? What's a celular? ¿Qué es un celular? Ah, un celular es un teléfono móvil. Es un teléfono móvil. It's a mobile phone. Okay, bien. But ¿qué es is really the only way to structure that properly. ¿Cuál es tu celular? Which means which ones out of all these phones that are lined up is your cell phone, kid who just got done with the test. See? Okay. ¿Es tu estación favorita del año?
¿Cuál?
I think cuál.
¿Cuál? ¿Cuál? ¿Cuál es tu estación favorita del año? Estación has 4 choices. There are only 4 things you can pick. Estación season, there are 4 of them. So it's going to be one of 4 things, one of a very closed set of things, right? And nobody will ask that question as ¿Qué es tu estación favorita? In English, we might say, what's your favorite season? But in Spanish, really the only thing that sounds right to them, and that's a uniform thing, sounds right to them is ¿Cuál es tu estación favorita del año? Okay. Will they understand if you put a K in that situation? Yeah, they'll probably understand you, but it will sound really off to them. It will it's the whole thing of somebody's listening for your question and they have to pause and think about it. That kind of reaction. Yeah. Will they finally get it? Ultimately, yes, but they have to think about it and pause a beat. You see where I'm going with that. Okay. We've got carro quiere usted. Carro.
¿Qué?
What car do you want? ¿Qué or cuál?
Mm.
¿Cuál?
Carro, noun.
I
Grammar
put
police.
cuál because you're picking from a group.
Well, because
true.
carro's a noun, here is
Right.
the
That's true.
proper by the rules. ¿Qué carro quiere usted? Say you're at a rental place, yeah?
Mhm.
Yeah. And I know, aren't you picking from all those cars on the lot? You know what? In Latin America, they might put that in Latin America. In Latin America, that would probably be considered okay. A lot of places. But technically, rule obeying, que, because it's que with a noun.
Hmm.
So this is a rule that's kind of in flux and it's dependent on what region you're in. I'm going to tell you, if you go to Spain, I don't think you're going to hear cuál. If you go to Latin America, you might. But yeah, if you're on the rental lot and they're giving you a choice, you got out of the airport, you wanted to hop in a rental car. So, will you be understood either way? Yeah, probably. Yeah. Okay.
Marilyn, as a quick aside on that, why in that sentence, whoever wrote this, did they choose to put usted in there?
I only put it in there so that it is not implied. If somebody is
Okay.
speaking to you at a rental car counter, they probably won't say the word usted, or they might not say the word usted. They might say the word usted if they think, wow, gringo or gringa. Yeah, maybe. And I got to be specific. But a lot of people drop the usted. I put it in there for context, meaning that's it. Yeah. Okay. Sí. Okay. This one. Es tu cumpleaños.
I think it's cuál.
Cuál.
This one is going to be cuál. And this is the one that English speakers' brains don't like. We don't like it because we say, what's your birthday? But they think of cumpleaños as one of 365, leap year, 366 choices.
Man.
Okay. So, no, this does not fit the university rules of logic, zeros and ones, yes or no, black or white choices of logic as a study. But it is the way they view that choice of cumpleaños is a date on the calendar. It's one of those dates. Give it to me. Okay. ¿Qué es tu cumpleaños? ¿Qué es tu cumpleaños? Could be misunderstood as you don't know what the word cumpleaños means.
Mm.
Yeah. That we need a definition. El día que naciste, the day you were born. El aniversario de tu nacimiento, the anniversary of your birthday. Yeah. So really the only understandable choice, the only one that won't, the one where they say, I know what you mean, I know what you mean, that's super clear, is ¿cuál es tu cumpleaños? If you ask us, ¿qué es tu cumpleaños? They might get it, but they'll want to, yeah, think about it and kind of skip a beat. Okay. Bien. Okay, how about this one? La fecha de hoy. La fecha de hoy. Today's date.
¿Qué?
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 Uy.
This one's going to be cuál.
Ah,
Cuál.
Ah.
Why?
Isn't that a
I put
definition?
cuál just because you're picking from a group.
¿Cuál es la fecha? This is set. ¿Cuál es la fecha? What's the date? It's one of 365.
Oh.
I know. By logic, that doesn't seem right, but it's a choice. Fecha means it's something off that calendar. And I want to know which one out of those possible 30, 31 things I see on that calendar. ¿Cuál es la fecha? So we're going to talk about these choices in a bit when we get done with this set. Okay. Día
Marilyn,
es...
Marilyn, on that one,
Sí.
I'm not sure if this is correct Spanish grammar right now, but could that question have been phrased as ¿Qué fecha es hoy?
Sí se puede. Yes, you could.
I guess the discussion we had a couple of slides ago with the, K plus a noun and qual s.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of blindly applying those right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we're done with this set, I'm going to explain something else, which may or may not help. Sometimes, I tell you these rules because they are there. I mean, it's a fact that this is what drives it. But sometimes you need to go by, this is the pattern I hear, this is the pattern I hear, rather than memorizing the rules. So I'm going to talk about that when we're done with this group. Okay. Tres más. Nos quedan tres más. We've got three more left. Día es la reunión. Day is the meeting.
¿Qué?
Yeah, K because it's
¿Qué?
followed by noun.
¿Qué? Yeah. ¿Qué is, sí? ¿Qué día es la reunión? ¿Qué día es la reunión? ¿Qué
Okay.
día? ¿Qué día? What day? Día is a noun. Sustantivo,
Noun.
a noun. So generally, this is what is blessed. Might you hear, you might from a person in Latin America. So I'm juxtaposing these so you can see. In Latin America, it is possible you could hear somebody use cuál día. It's possible, but I'm putting it here when I'm putting both one before and one after when one is something that you may in fact, hear somebody say. Okay. And you have to accept it then as a regional usage. Okay. Bien. Es la capital de Colombia.
¿Cuál?
¿Cuál? ¿Por qué? Why?
Because you're asking for a bunch of cities.
Yeah,
You're
you're
asking
picking
out of
from
a
the
bunch
list.
of cities. Sí, capital. Capital is capital. A capital is a city.
Of
It is,
Colombia.
first of all, yeah, and there are many, many capitals in the world, right? See? But yes, you are essentially choosing out of a roster of cities. ¿Cuál es la capital de Colombia? ¿Cuál es la capital de Colombia? That is really the only logical choice there. Only one. Ah,
Good.
es mi habitación, is my room, meaning a bedroom. Like this could be in a house. You're in a big Airbnb, yeah, and the Airbnb has 4 different rooms, or a hotel, un hotel, right? You just registered for un hotel, and what are we gonna pop in there?
I put Q. K,
No.
I'm sorry.
You have a bunch
Anybody
of
else?
qual.
You
I
put
say
qual.
qual.
Okay, give me your
Cuál.
reasons why, both of you.
There's a bunch of rooms. You have a bunch of rooms. So which room is mine?
There are a bunch. This hotel's like
Yeah.
40. This Airbnb's got like 4 different rooms. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one,
¿Cuáles?
yeah. This one
¿Cuáles?
is going to be cuál.
Qual. Okay.
Cuál. And this is really the only one that's going to make sense. If you use que in this question, somebody may very easily interpret you don't understand the meaning of the word habitación. And remember, habitación, bedroom. In some regions, people like to use the word cuarto instead of habitación. Somebody might use dormitorio, like they like that word better than habitación. And maybe they think, oh, you don't understand the definition of the word habitación. Yeah. ¿Qué es mi habitación? They're going to think, maybe you don't understand the definition of the word habitación. ¿Cuál? I'm picking out of some, if it's a hotel, maybe it's 100 rooms I've got to pick from. I don't know which one. I need to know where to dump my equipaje, my luggage. Yeah. Or an Airbnb. I don't know which one of the bedrooms is the one I'm in. Versus my nephews and nieces who are using the same Airbnb. Okay. See? Bien. So this one will not be que. This will be cuál. Okay, so let me point one thing out as we finish this group. As we finish this group, we've got these group and you are picking, by the way, you are picking the right answer more often than you're picking the wrong answer. So think about that. You're picking the right answer more frequently than you're picking the wrong answer. So that's a step up. So, okay, let's consider that a win.
So Marilyn, can I say something? The
Sí, sí,
video
sí.
gentleman, he gave 6 areas where K with a noun, K with a verb, and all that, and then getting into Jeopardy. If there's a question related to Jeopardy, I thought that video was excellent. I looked at
Okay.
it, watched it 3 times.
Yeah, the video. Yeah, the Jeopardy thing is actually quite good because it places and yeah, it because we've played that game, watched that show, we kind of
Yes.
understand how it works. Yeah. And yeah, that gracias. Bien, bien. Very good. Okay.
Okay.
Bien. All right. So here's what I want to leave you with as we look at the screen, and we're gonna move on to the next one. Dentro de poco, just in a little bit. Because there are rules and our brains are like, this doesn't make sense to me that if I'm asking what's your birthday, it's a choice out of 365 days. Seriously? Yeah. Maybe that doesn't make sense to you from a logical point of view. If that is true, don't let your brain explode. Here's what I want to tell you. There are certain questions. There are certain questions typically that might be asked of a traveler because they present a passport, because they're in a hotel, because they're choosing something in a store. There are certain questions that are just going to be sacred, and it may be more helpful to you rather than memorizing the rules to just anticipate certain questions will just always be this pattern. Because if you hear this pattern over and over and over again, it will start to be the brain worm that just digs its way into your gray matter. And you just accept it as that's the way people say it. So here are the questions that are just sacred, if you will. You will always hear it this way, right? Somebody's asking you about a choice. ¿Cuál es tu estación favorita? ¿Cuál es? Which one is your favorite of whatever? ¿Cuál es tu deporte favorito? ¿Cuál es tu deporte favorito? What's your favorite sport? ¿Cuál es tu música favorita? ¿Cuál es, ¿cuál es tu hobby favorito? What's your favorite hobby? ¿Sí? ¿Cuál es la fecha de hoy? What's today's date? It's always asked that way. ¿Cuál es la fecha? ¿Cuál es la fecha? ¿Cuál es la fecha? ¿Cuál es la fecha? Let it be an earworm, ¿sí? ¿Cuál es tu nombre? ¿Cuál es tu nombre? ¿Cuál es tu nombre? It's an earworm. Just that's the way it's asked. That's the way it's asked. Right? Um, and certain things you can just accept. That's the way you're going to hear it. And that might help you more. But you know, the ¿cuál es tu nombre? You're presenting your passport. Yeah, that's going to be it, you know. ¿Cuál es la fecha? If you're on a tour and you're supposed to be certain places, different days, and you're, what day is it? What country are we in? Yeah. ¿Cuál es la fecha? ¿Cuál es tu cumpleaños? ¿Cuál es tu cumpleaños? What's your birth date? Those are just sacred. They just are. And just memorize that's the pattern that is accepted. And I know. Yo sé. I know. Okay. A ver. Let's move on. Let's see if we can get these. And I tried to do some plural things too. Kid does not have a plural. So, okay. Okay. You don't have to worry about the plural form. ¿Cuáles? A little bit, but it's just good to kind of get used to it. Okay. Son los documentos que necesito. Are the documents that I need.
¿Cuáles? I believe.
¿Cuáles? ¿Cuáles son los documentos que necesito? There are many possible documents, passports, birth certificates, visas, right? Pick a bunch of others, right? We get flooded with paperwork. Documentos is a big category of stuff. It's something written on paper. And there are many different kinds of documents that you might be carrying with you, right? If you have to declare items, whatever. ¿Cuáles son? So we're picking something out of a group here with documentos. ¿Cuáles son los documentos que necesito? Which ones are the documents? We're picking something out of a group of stuff written on paper. Okay. Son los meses del año. Meses del año, months of the year.
I think it's qualities too.
It's cuáles there also. Of course, somebody isn't going to ask you this as a tourist, but a teacher to a group of little kids might, yeah? Little kids in kindergarten learning their, months of the year. See, ¿cuáles son los meses del año? ¿Cuáles son los meses del año? You might even ask this if you don't know all of the months in Spanish, right? ¿Cuáles son los meses del año? ¿Cuáles son? Meses del año? There are this many of them. So it's definitely a very finite group, enero, febrero, marzo, abril, mayo, etc. So you're picking something out of a group. De las camisetas quiere usted? And I'm going to tell you that this word right here, de, is kind of a clue for you.
Yeah.
Cuál.
Got to be cuál then.
It's going to be out of the, sí, cuál. Cuál, singular, but you're picking out of all the camisetas, right? Something laid out on a table or a display case or somewhere. ¿Cuál de las camisetas quiere usted? It could be cuáles. It could be cuáles if you're picking more than one. Es posible. It could be those two. Could be either one of those. But ¿cuál? ¿Cuál? ¿Cuál de las camisetas? We're assuming you're going to pick only one. It could be cuáles. Bien. Okay. Platos quieren pedir hoy. Platos quieren pedir hoy.
¿Qué?
Dishes.
Hey,
¿Qué? ¿Qué?
¿Qué?
Platos.
See? ¿Qué? Because we've got platos as a noun. ¿Qué platos quieren pedir hoy? Which dishes, and in English, we might say it as which dishes do you want to order? Or what dishes do you want to order? And in English, it wouldn't make any difference if you said what dishes are you ordering or which dishes. It wouldn't make any difference in English, right? ¿Qué is really considered preferable? You might hear cuáles in Latin America, but ¿qué is technically considered correct because platos is a noun. How about dirección busca usted?
Cuál?
I'm
Dirección is address.
It's a noun.
yeah,
It's a
I think
noun.
it's K, but that's what I put, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. ¿Qué is a noun? Dirección. ¿Qué dirección? ¿Qué dirección busca usted? ¿Qué dirección busca usted? Here is something I want to show you. I want to stop here. Dirección is one of those things that might be a set question as a tourist. Let's say, I don't know, maybe not with customs, but well, you never know. ¿Cuál es su dirección? Is like, ¿cuál es su dirección? What's your address? Is like, ¿cuál es tu nombre? ¿Cuál es tu color favorito? ¿Cuál es tu cumpleaños? What's your birthday? Yeah. ¿Cuál es tu dirección? Is a set question, but ¿qué dirección? ¿Qué with the noun? ¿Qué dirección? Which address are you looking for, right? What address are you looking for? Okay. Son los recuerdos que prefiere. Aquí, recuerdos son souvenirs. Souvenirs. Son los recuerdos que prefiere.
Cuál? ¿Cuáles?
I'm thinking quales, but
You're thinking cuáles, you're thinking right. Yeah. ¿Cuáles son los recuerdos que prefiere? there will be no substitute there, right? Que does not fit here. Que would indicate maybe you don't know what the word recuerdos means. So, cuáles is the one that will make sense to somebody. They totally understand what you're saying immediately. ¿Cuáles son los recuerdos de que prefiere? This is a tricky one. Me recomienda usted. The me recomienda, especially for Andres, this will be a tough one because this is like this has got an object. Me is receiving the action. What do you recommend? And the me means to me. This is a question that you'll hear in restaurants and maybe in hotels or tourist offices. Could be, maybe. This is asking, what do you recommend?
But you have lots of choices.
You do. That's a good point. I'll help you out here.
Yeah, me, I think.
Que, yeah. ¿Qué me recomienda? ¿Qué
Por,
me recomienda? Now,
porque.
you know what? I'm going to do something here, and I'm going to show you the difference. Here is a primo frequent restaurant question. This one right here. ¿Qué me recomienda usted? What do you recommend to me? The me just is the to me part. ¿Qué me recomienda usted? We don't have a nice structure thing to help us here, do we? And you might think of recomienda, but it's not really, this isn't really like a noun, like platos. Yeah. ¿Qué me recomienda usted? You want the waiter or waitress to point something out that's especially good on this menu, right? Like the house specialty, let's say. ¿Qué me recomienda usted? But you know what? If I visually am running my finger down the menu, and let's say I'm pointing just to the seafood items, pescado, I could ask, ¿cuál me recomienda? Which one out of just the seafood list? See? ¿Cuál me recomienda? ¿Cuál me recomienda? That might be okay if you've got a pinpointed list, a pinpointed category on the menu, and you're running your finger down the menu, right? And you're in the mood for something out of the ocean. Yeah. ¿Cuál me recomienda when the waiter knows you have a choice? Might be okay. But generally, when you hear this question asked, the standard, the usual, the 80% of the time question is going to be, ¿Qué me recomienda usted? What do you recommend? A set thing, just know that as something that you can spit out quickly. Okay? De la lista de vinos me recomienda. From the wine list.
Well,
That's what you just said. It's
Yeah,
the same
cuál.
thing.
And that
Cuál.
illustrates you're looking at a specific listing. ¿Sí? ¿Cuál de la lista de los vinos me recomienda? Yeah? ¿Cuál de la lista? Which one out of the wine list? And you're looking at a specific category. See? Bien? Okay, so now some of these were pretty hard. If you got some of these wrong, it's not the end of the world at all. It's not really a problem. But do know that there are certain things that will be kind of more accepted, easier to understand, the question they expect to hear. Bien. Okay? Vale? Preguntas, questions. I want to just open it up.
I'll just say I feel much more comfortable than I did an hour ago.
Okay. Gracias.
A mí también.
Yeah. I was gonna take you to that last bit here, but I think I'm gonna stop so you can get your brain into something that's a little bit easier to do. Is that okay? Sí, está bien?
Está
Mhm.
bien.
I had a set of setups and we can maybe come back to that another day. Because I think sometimes your brain needs a break. Okay, vale. And I want to fit the rest of this in. Okay. Está bien. Is that okay? Sí? Todo bien? Okay, vale. Quiero saber, I do want to know if you have any questions on this video that I had you go off and listen to. And this was just for fun. It was a just for fun listening. I think this one was a pretty easy one to understand. If I'm wrong, correct me. Or
I
if I'm,
got the gist of it.
see? Okay,
Yeah.
bien. And I bet you did well on that quiz if you took it along with her. But for somebody, hey, somebody asked us about cities in another country. Yeah, it could be kind of tough, couldn't it? Especially with a country the size of ours, which is really, really huge compared to a lot of countries on this planet. Vale. Entonces, no hay ninguna pregunta. There's no question at all. No. Fácil. Ok, vale, bien. Muy bien. Here is what I want to take us to for a review. Bien. I want to use the rest of our time for a new topic, a different topic. So we're not just, swimming in the que en cuál all the time, but we're looking at other things and other things that are worthy of review. Okay, bien. This is worthy of review. And Andrew, this is going to sound pretty new to you, except maybe for one verb on this list. And that verb is tener, because you are, I'm pretty sure, familiar with the verb tener, which falls in this category. I would like to do a little review of stem changing verbs and what they are and when they happen and how you can tell what they are. And it's, I think, easier than que en cuál, but wow, I might be surprised. Here we go. Stem changing verbs. And we're going to look at it from a vocabulary aspect and a grammar aspect. Vocabulary, because a lot of times, sadly, you just need to know that verbs fall into that category of something that is considered stem changing. Okay. And there are certain verbs in that category that are actually kind of common. I've got a little story for you to listen to that will show you how they're common. But you're always going to hear regular, meaning they follow the rules of conjugation, regular verbs mixed in with stem changing verbs in a normal everyday conversation, simply because some verbs are regular and some are irregular. Stem changing verbs are irregular. So the good news is stem changing verbs are, in fact, regular in terms of the kinds of endings they use. O for yo, as or es for tú, a or e for él or ella or usted, amos, hemos, imos for nosotros, an or en as conjugation endings. In that respect, stem changing verbs are in fact regular. AR stem changing verbs that are AR will use AR endings. Stem changing verbs that are ER category will use ER endings. Stem changing verbs that are IR will use mostly like the ER verb endings, except for nosotros and vosotros, right? So, okay, what's the deal? Bien. And poder is probably the poder and tener, I would say. Those two are probably the most common stem changing verbs that you already know that people already learn kind of quickly in Spanish, right? Poder means to be able to, and we use that verb poder a lot, but here is what happens. Wait a minute. The verb itself, the original form, the root form, the basic form is poder, P-O-D-E-R. But when you ask, puedes, can you, it is not podes. We don't change this to podes. We change it to puedes. And this funky thing happens here. The O from poder, if a verb is a stem changer, which this one is, the O splits off to become a vowel combination. It is not the O you expect to hear. It is a UE, 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 ue. Okay? So, stem changing verbs means that this part of the verb, which is the stem, the little vowel in that stem will split off and do something that is not that original O. All right, that is what a stem changing verb is. Okay, vale. There are three kinds of categories. Just like we have AR infinitives, ER infinitives, IR infinitives, okay? There are three categories of stem changes that might happen if a verb is categorized as a stem changer. And that is the E in that stem might change to an IE. The O might change to a UE. The E, oh, wait a minute, I've got two E's. I've got two E's. The E might change to an I. So that means the letter E could potentially have two kinds of stem changes. You have to know which one it is. But these are the three categories, okay? And entender, to understand, is again like poder, like tener, is a stem changing verb. So this particular verb, you just have to know that entender, to understand, is a stem changer. And this here, which I have in bold, and let's put it in a different color too, in blue. Whatever vowel is right next door, right in front of the ER or the AR or the IR of the infinitive, whichever vowel is next door to that one, that's the one that's going to get the stem change, meaning that is going to convert and change into something a little bit different in many, many, many of the conjugations. Not 100% of them, but most of them. Okay. So this tells you which little vowel in the stem gets the change. It's the vowel that it's immediately in front of or before the AR or the ER or the IR. Okay. Here's the other thing to know. Nosotros and vosotros, but only Spain uses vosotros. So that's kind of, it's moot. You don't really need to know that. But the nosotros does not take a stem change. Out of all the conjugations, yo, tú, él, ella, usted, ellos, ellas, ustedes, nosotros. Nosotros is the funky one that goes back to the original vowel here. And it will not, nosotros will not. It is the only one that will not use a stem change. But all the other verb forms do. So here we go. Let's take a look at two types of stem changes. All right. When you actually conjugate a stem changing verb, the verb endings are just like you'd expect them to be. O, as, a, amos, an. Okay. But you also change the internal vowel. And it might become an IE, it might be a UE, it might be an I. You do need to memorize, but after you hear enough examples, you just internalize it. You have to know which kind of stem change it is. Nosotros and vosotros always revert back to the original vowel in the stem and There's no stem change used at all. So let's look at a verb that this is actually a lot like entender, to understand, but it is encender, to turn on something, like to turn on a light, turn on a TV, turn on the radio, turn on any kind of device, turn on the stove, right? Encender is a verb that many people use to say turn on some kind of especially an electronic appliance or a light. And it happens to be an E to IE kind of verb. So the conjugation becomes enciendo, enciendes, enciende, encienden. Those forms all get the stem change. The middle E of encender splits off into an IE, not just an E. It is not encendo, encendes, encende. It's enciendo, enciendes, enciende, encienden. Those get the stem change. Nosotros does not do the IE stem change. It goes back to the original vowel right in the middle here of the E, okay? Encendemos. Okay, my pet theory, why do they do that? Is because encendemos is a long word. And if I put in an extra vowel, it makes the word longer. And we already got a long word. So I think somehow that's just my theory why that happens. Because it's a long word and it's harder to pronounce a longer word if I add more vowels to it. So often these kinds of verbs, stem changing verbs, are called boot or shoe verbs because the verbs fall inside a little imaginary boot that you draw around those conjugation charts. Boot verbs, shoe verbs, because it looks like a shoe or a boot. Okay? Game? That's what they do. Encender happens to be an E to IE. Poder happens to be an O to UE. Why? Well, because it's got an O. And O, it's a stem changer. The O can only change to a UE. So it becomes I can, puedo. You can, puedes. He can, she can, puede. They can, pueden, right? You guys, ustedes, same thing, pueden, right? But the nosotros form goes back to the original O in poder, podemos. Podemos, right? Because podemos makes it a longer word. We just don't do that. Podemos, podemos. Okay? Bien? So we've got an example of an IE stem change and a UE stem change. Yeah, you just got to know it's that kind of stem change. Bien? And here is an E to I change. Okay? Repetir, repetir. That next to the IR of repetir, that changes out, swaps out to the letter I in the shoe format in those conjugations. So it becomes repito, repites, repite, repiten, but repetimos, repetimos, okay? Decir actually is also a stem changer. It's also got this funky thing going on because in addition to being a stem changer, it's a go verb. Decir means to say or to tell. So, but it's a very common verb that you hear people using a lot. So, digo, I say, dices, you say. ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se dice? How does one say? ¿Cómo se dice cell phone? Ah, celular. ¿Cómo se dice cell phone? Se dice celular. Se dice, one says. Yeah. Dice. Dicen. And then outside of if we had the boot drawn, outside of the boot would be this decimos, because nosotros goes back to decir, the original vowel of decir. So, okay. Vale. Bien. We just need to kind of know when a verb is a stem changer. And you know what? You'll hear them used that way. All right. it's good to get comfortable with which verbs fall into this category. So, Andrew, this might be extra work for you because it is essentially kind of a memorization thing. But it's just a matter of when you be aware when you listen to a lot of stories, you'll hear people using these verbs and just get used to hearing them. So let's take a look. Tener is a stem changing verb. I know it's got this go thing, and the tengo kind of doesn't do that. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Tango doesn't have a stem change. No, it doesn't. Well, it's just oddball. But look, you've got stem changes in the rest of tener. Tienes, tiene, tienen. But then we know that tenemos doesn't have, it is T-E-N, right? And I know tengo is kind of an outlier. It should be in the boot. Rules are meant to be broken. That's all I can tell you. Okay. But it's an IE. The thing to know, tener is an IE type change. And here is the vowel that gets the, generally the IE, right? Tienes, tiene, not tenes. Okay, bien. Recomendar, to recommend. Recomendar. And we look at the vowel next door to the AR, ER, or IR. So here is where the stem change will be. It's not going to be in here. It's going to be in the syllable, the vowel in the syllable right next to the AR, ER, IR. So it's right next to the caboose of the train. Yeah, the caboose is the AR, the ER, the IR. All right. And it is an IE stem changer. So it'll sound like this. Recomiendo, right? You will often hear people saying, te recomiendo. I recommend that you do something, right? In a restaurant, giving directions, whatever. Recomiendo, recomiendas, recomienda, recomiendan. But nosotros ditches that IE. It goes back to the by itself. Recomendamos, recomendamos. And notice, because recomendar is an AR verb, all these endings look very regular. Recomiendo, recomiendas, recomienda. This is the part of a stem changer that isn't oddball. It does follow the rules. Recomiendan, that follows the rules, right? Recomendamos. The endings themselves for the conjugations are fine. It's this little vowel in the middle. So we have to start to get familiar with which verbs are, in fact, stem changers so we can anticipate that, right? Entender, to understand. And this one you'll hear a lot when you want to tell somebody, I don't have a clue what you're saying. No entiendo, no entiendo, right? Entender, we look at the syllable next door to the AR, ER, IR. In this case, it's entender, an ER, and that has an E in it. This happens to be an IE category. You just need to know that. But you know what? You're going to hear this verb a lot. Entiendo. Entiendo, entiendes, entiende, entienden. And then nosotros goes back to this original pattern. It does not split the vowels off. Entendemos. ¿Sí? Bien. So we've got an IE stem change here, an IE stem change here, an IE stem change here. Here we've got an O to UE. Volver means to come back, to return, okay? To come back. And the O here, right next door, it's the vowel in the next door syllable to the ER on volver. That is where the O will split off into a double letter as a UE. Vuelvo, vuelvo, vuelves, vuelve, vuelven. But then nosotros, I'm a long verb already. Let's go back to the shorty. I don't want to do extra vowels. It goes back to the O of volver. Volver, volvemos, volvemos, ¿sí? So a sample sentence would be something like, Ana no vuelve hasta las 3. Ana no vuelve, she's not coming back till 3, ¿sí? Ana no vuelve, así. Bien? Good so far? See?
Mhm.
But it's good to know, Andres, especially for you, get accustomed to. Certain verbs fall into these categories. And here is another one, and people will use this a lot in this type of question or a request, let's say. This is really kind of a request. People might say, Cuéntame. Tell me all about it. And I know decir means to tell. Contar means I expect to be sitting here listening to a long story. I want all the details. Decir is for like a yes, no, or give me a word. Yeah, something short. But contar, cuéntame, tell me, and think in parentheses all about it. Yeah. People want to know the whole dish on the story. If they say, cuéntame, cuéntame. Yeah. Cuéntame de tu día. Tell me about your day. I want to hear every little detail of what happened. Yeah. It's not just tell me your name. It's cuéntame. Tell me a story. Contar can also mean to count, as in counting out money. Yeah. So, contar is going to follow AR verb patterns for conjugation, but this o splits off into a UE. So it becomes cuento, cuentas, cuenta, cuentan. And then nosotros doesn't like a stem change. It goes back to the o. It's just contamos, contamos. Bien? Good so far?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. For what it's worth, I've been exposed to this through Duolingo already with
Yeah.
no explanation. So to try to
Yeah.
figure it all out, I had to tear my hair
Yeah.
out.
So
Just go
now
through it.
here's a dirty little secret that might help you a little bit, because a lot of times people say, I'm going to go back to a lot of times people will say, hey, this is confusing. E could be an IE, E could be an I. Oh, shoot. Come on. How do I know? How do I know? Well, all right. This may not help you a lot, but it will help you a little. This E to I is a small category. It happens less frequently. So the number of words you have to recognize as they fall in this category, it's a small category, you know? Many verbs fall into the IE category. Tons and tons and tons of verbs do this. And pretty hefty number of verbs do this, you know? But this one, the E to I, is a pretty select, pretty small category, okay? So these two patterns of IE and UE, they occur frequently. Okay, bien? Vale. And, oh, these two, which both mean to remember. Both of these mean the same thing. They have two verbs to remember. I know. Now, most English speakers like this one because it follows our English thing of remember. You think of recording and remembering, and it's easy for you as an English speaker to remember it. But to be honest with you, more people use this. But just know, both of them, which have the same definition, are both stem changers, and they're both UE. So recordar, recordar, it becomes recuerdo. Recuerdas, recuerda, ¿sí? Recuerdan. And then nosotros doesn't like it, goes back to the recordamos, right? But if people use this other verb for remember, it needs a little pronoun in front of it. It just does. It's a reflexive. It's the way it is. It also needs this little word de. But this, sadly, really is what you're going to hear probably a larger percentage of Spanish speakers using to say remember. See? Me acuerdo de. Me acuerdo, and then the little word de. Te acuerdas de. Te acuerdas de. ¿Ok? Bien. Se acuerda de. Se acuerda de. And se acuerdan, plural, de. But nosotros goes back to the o. Nos acordamos de. See? So, somebody might say something like this. No me acuerdo de su número de teléfono. I don't remember his phone number. No me acuerdo de. This verb just needs this little word de. It just does. You have to accept it. But it's also reflexive. It needs the little word me in front of it there. It doesn't use, you won't hear a yo. You'll hear the me though. It'll need the me. No me acuerdo de su número de teléfono. You could also phrase it as no recuerdo su número de teléfono. That's all right too. Or, ¿te acuerdas de esa fiesta de Luis? Hey, do you remember Luis's, that party that Luis gave? Yeah. ¿Te acuerdas de? Do you remember that party? See? Bien? So, I'm going to give you some things to kind of play around with. We'll kind of come back to this and create some little sentences with these next week. And I'm going to send you another little file that'll be like a fill in the blanks so that you just practice the pattern of the stem change. And all you fill in is what's the correct conjugation of the verb. See? Bien?
Bien.
Good. And what I'm also going to do is, this is kind of a long file. It's going to have a whole bunch of things, verbs that use stem changers. So I'm going to give you a little page to do a fill in the blank. Giving the right. You'll have two examples that are done for you. And part of the drill of this is also knowing what do these verbs mean in English so that you can distinguish that. Okay. So it'll be conjugating the verb and then knowing what the verb means, what's the information that we're conveying by using those verbs. So you're going to get a little, it'll look like it's on paper. And actually, I'm going to ask you to do maybe half of those, not the whole, because there are 22 in all. Maybe you don't want to do all of them. But there's a little story. And the little story I want you to listen to. Actually, it's going to repeat the story. Once it'll give you the story with no subtitles, and then middle of the video, they repeat the same story with the subtitles so that you see them as you're listening to the story. I want you to notice how many stem changing verbs pop up in the story. So the secret sauce, if you will, is why do I need to know stem changing verbs? Well, because you'll hear them, but you'll hear them from time to time to time as, if it's pertinent and somebody uses that word, they will use it and it'll be mixed in with regular verbs. So when you're listening for listening comprehension, you're listening as an English speaker really hard for verb conjugations. And then every once in a while you get like a little speed bump of, I've got a stem changer here. I've got a stem changer here. And they'll be mixed in as needed. See? Just because that's the way the language works. So you'll have that. And I'm hoping to find, I've been having trouble finding kind of just a fun non-grammar video for the week, but I think I might find one by the end of the day today. See? Todo bien? All good?
Todo
All
bien.
good.
Todo bien? I think vale la pena. It's worth it. I think it's worth the effort to just review that a little bit so that we understand what those stem changers are.
Absolutely.
So Andres gets a chance to practice those deep
How
dive.
about Sam? Sam needs to practice them too.
Sam needs to practice. Gracias, Sam. Muchas gracias. Sí, muy bien. Ok, vale, perfecto. Muy bien. Y son las 11. It is 11. So we should stop it there because I'm sure people have
Adios.
other things to do with their day. And if there are other topics you want me to cover besides this, please do let me know. I'm always open to, plugging in things that you personally want to practice. But this is one of those foundational things that we haven't looked at in a long time, and it is worth it. Vale la pena, es worth it. ¿Sí? ¿Bien?
Yeah.
Okay, done.
Excelente. Bueno, entonces sí, nos vemos